Hello guys, welcome back to Between the Ropes TV. Before we get into this reaction, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, it really does help us out. But wow, what a main event. Going into this one, there was a lot of talk about Mauricio Lara and Leigh Wood's power, and it was always going to be a case of, who could land the most effective shots. Lara did it in the seventh round, and to be honest, it actually came from nowhere. He landed that left hook, and it just put Wood out. To be fair to Wood, he did get up. He didn't look on great legs, but I think really, especially from seeing the replays, he wanted to carry on. And there was only 10 seconds left in the seventh round, so for me, he should have been able to carry on. He's the champion in his hometown. He was openly saying yesterday at the weigh-in, Lara's going to have to kill me. And, not that we'd obviously want to get it to that stage, but I would have liked to have seen him been able to continue. But Ben Davison threw the towel in. It's going to be controversial. I think it's going to be one of those things that are talked about. But the fight itself, in fairness, it was a terrible start for Leigh Wood in terms of he was really unlucky. An accidental clash of heads caused a cut in the first round to Leigh Wood, just above his eye. And you could see, particularly in the second and third rounds, it was the way it was bleeding into the eye was causing him a few little problems. And in the second round, Lara, it was a good attack, put 5 or 6 shots together a couple of times, and you could see it rocked Wood. And I started to think, I'm a Leigh Wood fan, but I did start to think, oh dear, are we about to see him sort of get brutally stopped? But for me, from then on, I gave him, the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, and the seventh up until the stoppage. So he was comfortably ahead on the scorecards. He was on Carl Froch's as well. And, again, Froch, in fairness, did point out he's a Leigh Wood fan, but he was just landing the crisper shots and he was countering Lara really well. And I think it's also worth noting that, Mauricio Lara was breathing at times, quite, mouth hanging open. And you could see he didn't look sharp. He didn't look on it. Particularly like we've seen against him with Josh Warrington in the fight since. So I'll be honest, I was starting to think Leigh Wood's going to coast to a point victory, possibly a late stoppage. But sadly, it was not to be. It's devastating. It truly is, especially when we're fans of his. But there's something about this featherweight division, isn't it? We've seen it time and time again the last couple of years. Champions cannot keep hold of belts. We've seen Mark Magsayo beat Gary Russell Jr., lose it to Ray Vargas next time out. Kid Galahad won it, lost it to Kiko Martinez, who then lost it to Josh Warrington, who then lost it to Alberto Lopez. We're seeing this in the featherweight division, and it's a really competitive division. So there's some great fights to be made. But post-fight, we did get Eddie Hearn here. He has clarified this was a voluntary defence, so Leigh Wood does have a rematch clause. Now, on the channel and on our social medias, I've been very vocal against rematches at the minute, obviously with the Chris Eubank Jr., Liam Smith too. But that's a fight there's no need for us to see. It was a conclusive winner. This fight, there's question marks still with it because Leigh Wood was ahead on the scorecards, I think, probably for everybody. And there's also a definite question mark next to the stoppage because although it was a brilliant knockdown, I would have liked Leigh Wood to have been given the opportunity to carry on. So I don't mind seeing this rematch. And, whether it turns into, Josh Warrington was there tonight, so whether it turns into Warrington and Lara fight, Wood faces the winner that was mentioned by Eddie Hearn, or whether we go straight into a summer showdown at the City Ground with Lara and Wood. Who knows? But I definitely want to see that rematch. I'm devastated for Leigh Wood, and I think we have to actually commend him and Lara, in fairness, for taking this fight. Wood, as a voluntary defence, could have picked someone a much, much softer touch. And let's be fair, nobody else in the featherweight division wants to fight Lara. So we absolutely have to commend Leigh Wood for what he's done. And I just want to touch on Tony Bellew. Pre-fight was saying, this is either genius by Ben Davison or a risk that's going to backfire. And it's backfired. So there's been question marks about Ben Davison, a couple of fighters, we've seen Josh Taylor leave him recently. And he's done a lot of good for Tyson Fury and obviously for Leigh Wood. But there are some question marks next to him for me, and they can only be answered with experience, fine. But I don't know, bit of a bit of a bad night for him tonight, I think you'd have to say. Although his tactics, in fairness, as I say, Wood was ahead on the scorecards. Moving down the card, Dalton Smith, chief support against Billy Allington in the second defence of his Lonsdale belt. There's no secret that he wants to win that belt outright. It was a bit lacklustre, if we're being honest. I think Dalton Smith, he's a talent that I'm massive fan of. But I was expecting a stoppage. He definitely won the fight, wide, probably won every round in reality. But there were single shots landing. There weren't really the combinations. He had Allington in trouble a couple of times. He did get the knockdown, but just couldn't build from there. He did also sustain a cut now, which has put the April fight with Sam Maxwell in jeopardy. But there is 11 weeks. It's April the 29th that's touted for. So time will tell. Hopefully the cut will heal. But Dalton Smith did sort of cast out, saying that it's the same cut that he suffered in the Casey Benjamin fight reopened. That was in November, so obviously you're talking about a similar sort of time frame. But I think we've definitely got to see more from Dalton Smith. He's been spotlighted by Matchroom. He was with Boxer as well for the last fight. And we've seen at British level now 2 slightly underwhelming performances. So I want to see more from Dalton Smith, and I think he's got it in the locker. And an experienced opponent like Sam Maxwell can definitely bring it out in him. So let us know in the comment section what you think on Dalton Smith tonight. Moving down the card again, we saw Gary Cully back. Now, obviously, he had that 35-second explosive Matchroom debut. And tonight, against the American Flores, it was just as explosive. They said about Flores coming into this undefeated. I think he was 10-0. But this is Gary Cully. He's 6'2" with the range. He's a lightweight. He's a southpaw. He's a problem for anybody in that lightweight division. He got that second round stoppage tonight, guys. And I just think he's going to crash the scene. I really do. I hope he's going to get a big fight now coming up May the 20th in Dublin. Big things from Gary Cully, and he's a talent that we should all definitely be excited about. Next, we had Chev Clark, who's done the 10 rounds distance. And again, I wasn't thrilled with his performance. I thought, the opponent came in at late notice, and he was game. He was a bit awkward. But, Chev Clark, he knocked him down various times, but he just didn't quite have the power to take him out and looked tired as the fight wore on. To be expected, this is only his 5th professional fight. But for a fighter that there's so much hype and so much noise about him, I'd have liked to have just seen a little bit more and seen that stoppage. But encouraging, Clark did get a knockdown in the 10th round, literally the last punch of the fight. So he clearly carries a bit of power as the fight wears on, which is a little box ticked in fairness to Chev Clark. Cruiserweight scene's bubbling away, isn't it? So there's plenty of big fights and big nights ahead for Chev. So it's another box tick, 10 rounds bank that will definitely help him out as his career unfolds. Lastly, then on the main card, Gamal Yafai is back. He'd only had 4 professional rounds in the last 2 years at 31 years of age now. A lot of talk this week about how he wants to be in world title contention in sort of 2 or 3 fights. Sadly, he lost wide as well. Was knocked down 3 times, and it's a sad one to end this video on, guys. But I think Gamal Yafai is from a very talented family, and he's talented himself. But I think he needs to retire now. The first thing that goes is punch resistance, and fair play to him. He went out on his shield and he made it to the final bell. But Jamie Moore, he's linked up with him for this one. Jamie Moore wasn't very happy with him. He was standing and trading despite being told not to. And it just looked like a fighter. We saw similar with James DeGale. For me, it just looked like a talented boxer that is sadly just a bit past their best, which is a shame, but he still had a decent career, 40 European level, come up short, but, still a good career to be proud of. And, we all know about that. You find the Yafai family and Galal's on the rise rapidly as well. So more to come from them. But guys, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button. Let us know what you think. Do you want to see the rematch of Wood and Lara 2? Should Josh Warrington get a chance? A lot of people are saying he shouldn't even be talked about, after his loss of his own title last time out before Christmas. So let us know what you think. There's plenty more content to come. So we'll see you on the next one.